Orange Bowl was built I think the same time as the Roman Coliseum, wasn't it? I mean, what a shithole. I couldn't believe it. You needed a machete to get out of the players' parking lot. The rest was like 6 feet high. I mean, it was unbelievable. You couldn't even find your car with a compass. It's incredible. Tony would argue, the opposite. But I mean, if you're being honest about it, look, I know it had a great atmosphere or whatever.
Yeah,
When we were inside, the place was shaking, and that probably was, a significant home field advantage for the Dolphins and the Hurricanes.
The opposing team was scared that they would die.
Yeah. But I'll never forget my first time. I went down into the bowels there of the Orange Bowl to go out on the field, and I'm looking up at this structure, and it literally looked like it was built with an erector set. I hope this guy had all of the little nuts and bolts there, because you know how you always lost one, and that would cause this beautiful bridge that you had built to collapse. And this is how this place is put together. I think, the Golden Glades interchange was a better conception architecturally. And that's a piece of shit.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
All right. Very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you on a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. Jeff DeForest, along with a very handsome and dapper-looking Mike Lubie. Good to be with you today. We have the Pigskin Playbook coming up with the great John Congemi, at least so we think. And then later on, the Agent of the Stars, Brett Tessler, as we witnessed what many were billing. It's a little bit of a premature evaluation, is it not, to bill this game that took place last night as a potential Super Bowl matchup? I guess if you looked at the records and the way the two teams have performed so far, is it possible, Lubie, that both the Miami Dolphins and the Philadelphia Eagles could play a rematch of this game from last night on Super Bowl Sunday in Las Vegas sometime in February? Is that possible? Not out of the question. Did it look likely after watching last night's game? What do you think? Maybe. But what wasn't the best of performances by the Miami Dolphins? Their offense was actually held at 10 points in the game, which is kind of weird. Many people would point to the officials and say that they had an amazing lead.
The Eagles didn't commit one penalty. Lombardi and his fucking day wasn't that good. Nick Sirianni should literally be put in the Hall of Fame already.
Isn't that amazing? Not one penalty. Yeah.
Entire game versus that. The Dolphins had their full defensive line. Like 4 dudes that all could possibly be Pro Bowlers versus that defensive line and didn't commit one holding. The 2 pass interferences that were replayed. The stupid ref that they pay was like, yeah, that's fucking pass interference.
Well, the one with the face mask there, which probably denied the Dolphins a chance to go in for a touchdown. Offensively, they would have had the ball, at the 2-3 yard line, and they were moving the ball at that point. And it seemed like Tua had a pretty good rhythm working. Guy blatantly, how do the officials miss those calls, though? That's the amazing thing.
Damn, miss them.
The pass interference call is kind of arbitrarily enforced anyway, because you will see a guy, now you wonder about this, because they're always talking about, well, you know what, the coaching staff has 18 guys, and 4 of them are dedicated to defensive backs. And you're asking yourself, well, what kind of technique are they teaching these defensive backs where the simplest of things, everybody knows, it used to be called face guarding, and what happened in the Sandlot, where some guy would be beaten badly, and then you just come running after him and trying to collide with the guy as you're waving your hands in the air and going, your mother.
Yeah.
It's not exactly, defending a pass play. Very poor. But, in the pros, how do they routinely have this happen where a ball is underthrown and the guy never looks around and just smashes into the receiver for a blatant and obvious pass interference, and yet it's only called about half the time.
Yeah.
Even when the guy makes the catch, you don't see the flag.
No.
Where a guy is annihilated by an oncoming defensive back who is not facing the play, which you would think that would be rule of thumb number 1, watch the ball. But they're beaten so badly that they have no recourse except to try and sprint after the person and recover. And as a matter of almost routine now, it seems like those passes are always underthrown. And the defensive back ends up colliding with the receiver, and it's a cheapo pass interference call, but very easy to make. I just don't understand why it isn't enforced more regularly, because you see it all the time. And then the other one that comes into play, and this gets back to the professor's favorite podcast, the Tom Brady podcast, where he was talking about what pussies the
Oh my God, that fucking roughing the
NFL.
passer. And that would have been a fucking drive.
So yeah, it wasn't great. I mean, same thing. Is there a bias against Miami because we live in paradise? Is that what it is? I was thinking this on the walk the other day. I'm on the walk of life, and it was just absolutely divine outside. It was relatively early in the morning for me to be out there on a Saturday, and the weather was good. It wasn't quite as steamy as it usually is. I don't know that it was cool, though, because we are so badly influenced. If we get one cool day being like something around 68 degrees at some point during the day, maybe even in the middle of the night, for some reason, even though it's like 95 degrees the next day, we feel like, hey, man, it really cooled off, huh?
Oh, yeah. It felt way cooler.
It's lingering, yeah.
I'm like, it's not hot. I'm like, then you forget what it was 2 weeks ago.
It's a steam bath out there. What are you talking about? It was still 90 degrees. This is October, 23rd, for God's sake.
It's like 88. I'll take 88.
Little kids are walking around in Halloween outfits, trick-or-treating, and we're outside. It's 90 degrees. And we go, oh, yeah, real nice. But other than that, maybe a little bit of global warming that's influenced the temperatures here. You do have paradise. Is that the reason that officials just hate Miami teams? Because the Hurricanes were getting hosed also on calls almost routinely throughout that ball game also against Clemson, which, wow, was there enough stuff to keep track of over the weekend, Lubie? It was an amazing. I actually didn't even make the move to go to the local casino to bet horses on Saturday because I started watching college football and I couldn't stop.
Yes, it was fucking a great day. It was, look, that was the good day. Yesterday was it? Look, my problem with the game yesterday, and I get it. There's no moral victories, but when you're missing the Dolphins, literally by the first drive, were missing 3 of their 5 starters on offensive line. It was already a questionable offensive line. It was playing above its head.
It was makeshift. It was patchwork. Yes.
But they're missing 3 of 5. Like Isaiah Wynn goes down on the first drive. It's like, oh shit. They had their whole defensive line. I didn't realize Carter's a backup. Carter doesn't even fucking start for the Eagles. That's how good they have 5 guys that would be Pro Bowlers. Brandon Graham is a backup, and he would be a Pro Bowler. They have 5 guys that would be Pro Bowlers, and you're playing with 3 back. So when Wynn goes out, they're playing with the back because they were playing up with a back. There's some guy I'd never heard of, Lookout or whatever the fuck, the guy that had like 4
Lookout. That was the name of his blocks. Look out!
I don't remember what his name was, but I think he had like 4 penalties himself.
No, they did look lost.
The fact that Tua didn't die in that game is actually impressive. Like, that's the funny thing is they played possibly the best offensive line in football with already a bad offensive line, missing 3 guys, and they almost won. Like, they had a chance to tie with like 11 minutes left. That's what I took from that game. I know there's no moral victories, but I mean, what are you going to do? And then they're missing their whole secondary. Howard's out. Yes. Fucking Ramsey's out. Needham hasn't played all year. Like, Cole's covering everyone.
Give McDaniel credit. He didn't make any excuses after the ball game. That's sure, fine. Mike McDaniel. Right. They were in it. I mean, it was 17-all. They got down 17-3, came back. Beautiful pass to Tyreek Hill. There's this big debate going on all of a sudden in the media, whether Tyreek Hill, was this spark? All of these phony hypothetical debates, which are impossible to answer. I mean, look, you're always going to think the person, the here and now is going to be the greatest that you've ever seen. Can you really, compare Tyreek Hill to Lance Allworth or something? I mean, or Art Monk, Jerry Rice, even.
No.
I mean, you can, but I mean, how do you decide? Oh, well, this guy's the greatest ever. I don't know that I would say that Tyreek Hill is the greatest receiver I've ever seen.
No, he's just different.
Damn fucking good. I mean, and who wouldn't want him on your team? The guy is a huge difference maker, and creates all kinds of this pandemonium in the secondary. But I mean, to start this conversation going, and now that people are taking sides, and there are those that believe that Tyreek Hill is the greatest receiver ever to play in the National Football League. I don't know about that yet. I mean, come on, Lubie. He's a different type of receiver. It's kind of like evaluating Deebo Samuel.
Yep.
and trying to assign a position to him and say, well, he's the greatest. I mean, I don't know, what is he? The best running back, the best wide receiver, the best kind of hybrid guy that you can have, and that's the nature of the beast in the NFL these days. You need those kind of guys that have multiple ways of being effective, including running the football. Which every now and then you'll see the handoff go to Tyreek Hill. How about that behind the back thing that Tua did early in the ballgame? And the Dolphins were feeling it early on until they realized, hey, we have no offensive line and no secondary. We're fucked.
Like they hung in there, and the refs were fucking. I think it was 11 penalties to 0. Like you can be the best coach team ever. You didn't commit one penalty, one stupid ass offsides, one.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
One holding. You had Phillips and Chubb were actually doing a hell of a job. Wilkins was playing really well versus a good offensive line. Like they did Hurts got sacked 3 times, and he should have been sacked 6 or 7 times.
Yes.
The defensive line did a good job. You're telling me there wasn't one hold, not one time did they hold the Dolphins defensive line that was getting pressure on their quarterback, who's their season the entire game. Like, come on. Like,
how does Roger Goodell not do an investigation into something like that? I mean, please. What is it? Favoritism to Jeffrey Lurie? Not Jeffrey Lurie, but Jeffrey Lurie, who became a very respected owner. Didn't he make his money making like B-grade films or something? Wasn't that how he amassed his fortune? What was it, Triple X or kind of low-level movies that he was involved in? Jeff Lurie, who seems, I don't know, I mean, on the surface, from what little I know of him, seems like a reasonably decent guy and has been a respectable owner, taking over for the great Norman Brayman, who, of course, had, and still has Miami ties, right? Brayman's still kicking, isn't he?
I think he's down
Raymond Cadillac he used to dominate all of the advertising on TV for car dealerships for many years, and happened to own the Philadelphia Eagles, and they were a fairly distinguished organization there, but got out of it a long time ago. I bet he wish he still had a piece of the team, huh? Hey, did you sell too soon, Normie? Is that why you're bitter? No, I don't know. It seems fine. All right, we're going to get into there were so many things. I mean, wild finishes all around the NFL yesterday, in addition to the Dolphin game. And on top of that, you had some upsets of significant nature, I guess. Do you consider the Giants winning an upset? Not against the Commanders necessarily. The Commanders in complete, just absolute dismay after losing to the Giants. And one of their players Jonathan Allen, went nuts. Which you could anticipate. I mean, the frustration had to be mounting. And so what does a reporter ask him about? Hey, how frustrating is this? So, and the college, wild stuff happening on the college grid, including that game, which, again, Mario Cristobal, I hate to, they won the game, but what the fuck were you thinking?
He's a horrendous coach. I'm sorry.
What the fuck were you thinking?
Any faith in Mario Cristobal? You've never watched a football game. Like, you literally just live on Twitter talking about your team and have never seen a game. He's horrendous.
That was awful. That was so lame that he went for, just let the clock run out, went for overtime.
Who? Like Attila the Hun. Like, I'm trying to think of a conservative. Like, your guy that coached Syracuse was looking at him like, Jesus, Cristobal. Like, what the fuck? You had a minute and a half and 2 timeouts. And it wasn't like Clemson was killing it. Like, what do you...
You only have to go about 40 yards. You have a good kicker.
You need a field goal. All you needed was a field goal.
A field goal to win the game.
Like,
and you would rather go to overtime and risk... I mean, overtime in college football is pretty funky, no?
Fucking insane.
It seems fairly arbitrary. I mean, you can't say, wow, well, we have all the momentum, so we know we're going to roll over them in overtime. You have no idea what's going to happen in overtime. All right, let's bring on an expert, man. And we didn't get a chance to see this guy on TV, although were you there on CBS yesterday? Did you do like a pregame show? John Congemi joins us here for the Pigskin Playbook, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. Looking great as always, Johnny. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, Defo, guys, Lubie, I'm doing great. Yes, I did do a Dolphins Weekly Live early yesterday at 11:30, and then we were on till about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, you stayed on after the game?
Yeah, wow. We had the post-game show, the 5th quarter, and kind of talked a little bit about the disappointment of the Dolphins going on the road and not getting it done against the Philadelphia Eagles. And, I thought they had a chance. They're in the game.
Yes.
I really felt the defense put a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts, who didn't look 100%. I mean, even before halftime, he came out with the brace in the 3rd quarter, but I just didn't think he looked healthy, and he's still able to extend plays and do enough for the Eagles to win. I just thought that, Miami offensively, they've been leaning on explosive plays in that running game, and the running game wasn't there. And some of the explosives were there, but just not enough against a really good defensive front that faced a Miami Dolphins offensive line that was less than, the starters you had projected to play a game like that on the road to try to win.
Were those guys the guys that Chris Greer brought in when they were trying to get rid of Brian Flores at the end of that 5 and whatever that was, 11 season that he had when he won all those games at the end of the year? Remember when
they all
were picking up
played
the
against
guys at gas
Baltimore in
stations?
week
Yeah.
1? Yeah.
My God. Where'd they find all these guys? When you have, no depth, and then you have to go deep into your roster to find players to go out there and match up against, as Lubie pointed out, a dynamite collection of defensive linemen, including, Jalen Carter is not a starter on that defensive line. It's incredible. Yeah. A monster.
It's like stupid.
Monster.
Like, I know there's not moral victories, John, especially you played professional. I know there's not. But the minute I heard, what was it, like Tuesday, Connor Williams wasn't playing, I'm like, oh, well. And the fact that then in the game, Isaiah Wynn gets hurt like the first drive, it's like, okay. So to me, the fact that like with 11 minutes left, the chucking it down the field stuff, I don't get it. And I don't understand on 3rd and 8 when you're around the 20, when the middle has worked all night long to go and do like a fade route. And then I don't know why it happened online where they had 2 guys in the same area, which they haven't had.
That happened a couple of times.
Yeah.
In the game. Yeah.
The middle might have been, both the middle and that route might have been open if you don't have Slade just standing there being able to watch 2 dudes in one space. But like, the fact that was even a possibility to me, and I get it. It's the NFL. They're trying to win a Super Bowl. But to me, you're missing your whole secondary. You're missing most of your offensive line. The fact that you had a chance to tie the game with 11 minutes left, to me, said something. I know no one will see that. I know they'll look at the final score. But to me, it was like, okay, this team, at least, they didn't make excuses themselves. They were out there in this friggin' game with everything going against them. And it gave me a little solace. Like, you know what? They're going to be, in 2 weeks, they're going to be healthy. And I can't wait to see that team.
All Dolphin fans are waiting to see that team completely, and they've shown glimpses against lesser opponents this year, what they can do. But when you take a look at the Buffalo Bills and you take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles, at the end of the year, everybody around the country that's watching NFL football is going to say, oh yeah, those 2 teams are going to be in the mix in their respective divisions to play in the Super Bowl, to have a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. And the Miami Dolphins are in that conversation. But unless you win one of those games eventually, you're going to be playing on the road. And that doesn't bode well for the Miami Dolphins in the playoffs. This is a team that's built on explosive plays, that's built on speed, that's built on kind of getting after you early and staying after you. And that's not conducive to below freezing temperatures in hostile environments on the road against teams that are as good as you. And one mistake or 2 mistakes leads to 14 points. And that spread's tough to pick up sometimes when you're playing in a hostile environment where communication on offense is, last night you could tell there was a couple snaps that were early that were almost botched. You had receivers in the same area. Now, Mike McDaniel in his post-game presser said that they have built in within their system double moves where guys are kind of closer than normal. But I thought last night was unusual. I hadn't seen that a lot during the season. And I saw that on multiple occasions last night where guys maybe misread the coverage, ran their double move, but ran, within 5 or 7 yards of another receiver.
That was unfortunate on that pick as the Dolphins were driving for a score, and you had Mostert was in the same area as what was it? Was it
Waddle? I think was
Waddle.
I
Okay.
think, yeah.
And the guy that was covering Waddle came over and made the pick when he saw the pass short of the guy that was covering. Very, very unfortunate, and we saw that earlier. But it did seem like the Eagles had a concerted effort to keep the Dolphins from running outside early in the game. First half, they had like no yardage on the ground. So the fact that they were in this thing and scored that touchdown right before the half, beautiful pass there. We've seen that before. It looked extremely similar to his pass to win the national championship.
Yep.
Yeah.
When he put himself on the map. I mean, the same play almost exactly. They showed a couple of replays of that as they were going back and forth between that and the Tyreek Hill catch. And you're like, wow, this guy is great at that particular maneuver. So, much was made also, John, and I don't know what to make of this because, as they say, you can only play the teams that are on your schedule. But I guess in the Dolphins' 5 wins, the combined record of the teams that they had beaten prior to this game was 5-24. So you're saying, all right, they're cleaning up on the slop, and meanwhile the Bills, who did beat the Dolphins in that heads-up matchup that they had in week number 4, have now lost 3 in a row, including, I mean, they were getting handled yesterday by the Patriots until they came back late.
The Giants' win felt like a loss.
Oh yeah.
They didn't win against the Giants. They just should have lost.
Yeah, you know what? I'm thinking back. I'm thinking, didn't they lose that game? But they only lost at a point spread of 14.
You might have lost it on your card. That felt like a loss.
Yeah, I did. I had the Bills in that game, laying 14.5. But the Bills don't look great. I mean, they were getting pounded by the New England Patriots, who people were talking about that Belichick should step away. He gets his 300th victory, so still 28 behind the great one, Don Shula. And you're thinking if they don't get a huge boost in personnel, and they might, right? I mean, the battle for being somewhere in the top 5 in terms of selecting quarterbacks, you would think would be extremely significant. I had a Giants fan, the great Mike Nyman, text me during the game. This sucks because they were hoping to tank for the number 1 pick.
Right.
Like the last thing they wanted to do was win a game.
Did you guys see the crawl on the Buffalo Bills New England game where it said Belichick signed in the offseason a contract extension?
No,
I did not see that. No.
Oh,
Yeah.
He's sticking around, huh? So he wants to bury Shula again a second time.
Yes, he
Yeah,
does.
before the season, I guess he had signed a contract extension, but wasn't announced.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, no surprise that he would be able to write his own ticket. He almost, in some ways, deserves that. I don't think he's gone senile. And actually, to have that team in a position and ultimately beating the Buffalo Bills the way they've been playing was a pretty good, sign that he's not the shot fighter that a lot of people were making him out to be, because you would have to say that a certain amount of that pertained to coaching. From a personnel standpoint, the Bills lay over the New England Patriots, and yet they made a late comeback. I think there was about 6 minutes to go, and they were trailing by 13 points, and they got the 2 touchdowns real quickly, and then they ended up coughing it up, and Mac Jones didn't look half bad in that ballgame. So 300 for Bill Belichick. With the contract extension, what does he need? Another 6 years the way this team is going to get to 28 wins?
I don't know. He's going to need multiple. He's going to need multiple years. That's for sure. And it depends on, how they kind of finish out the season. The Miami Dolphins have them up next at Hard Rock Stadium. And, they're coming off of a good win at home.
That was a pretty decent performance by them.
Yeah, I thought they played well. And that's a defense that has some players. They have some talent on that side of the football. And it's all about, can they score enough points against an opponent that scores like the Miami Dolphins? You're going to need to be in the high 20s to be in the game, it looks like. So
I was going to say, is there a formula for shutting down the Dolphins? We've seen a couple of different things, right? Where, I guess it was last year where the LA Chargers took away the middle of the field and forced Tua to throw the ball to the outside, and he wasn't all that comfortable in that ball game. There seemed to be, a big effort by Philadelphia to contain the Dolphins' running game and force them to run inside. They eventually did get some yards in the second half, but that looked like it worked. I mean, if you were designing a defense to go against this Dolphin team, hard to judge them based on, I think Lubie correctly is alluding to the idea that, the offensive line, which was suspect to begin with, all of a sudden is being manned by backups almost across the board.
Yep.
So maybe it's unfair to judge them. But is there a way? I mean, people have been talking about this juggernaut offense all season, and it looks great. But is there a way to decode that offense, in your opinion?
I think so. You disrupt the time and space in the pocket for Tua. I mean, the Dolphins' offensive pass game is predicated on timing. Tua's going to hit a certain amount of steps. He's going to stick the foot in the ground and throw the football blindly, not blindly, anticipating Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and those guys to be in the right spot at the right time. And he already knows where he's going with the football pre-snap. So he's got a pretty good idea. But if you disrupt the timing in the pocket where he either has to hold the football or move off of his spot to get it to Tyreek Hill in those situations, you're not going to shut them down, but you are going to disrupt the timing and disrupt how it looks, because you're going to get a lot of incompletions. You're going to get a lot of balls thrown away, and you're going to get opportunities of putting him on the ground. You couple that with winning the battle at the line of scrimmage, and you shut down the running game. You don't have to stop it necessarily, but last night, the Dolphins had -7 yards on the ground in the first half. I think they finished with 45. That's shutting it down pretty good. And the defensive front, the front seven of the Philadelphia Eagles, they seem to do it with ease. Mostert got some runs on the outside in the beginning of that third quarter, and that was a nice adjustment by Mike McDaniel, getting people on the perimeter, using the leverage of the tight end to hook the final defender for the Eagles on the line of scrimmage, and then use the speed outside. It worked effectively early in the third quarter, but it was a game where you're going to need to have those chunk yardage plays show up more often. And that one pass that Tua threw to Tyreek, he's cutting inside, he's going to walk in the end zone. I guess after the game, Tyreek said when he was looking to run, his knee hit the football, and it kind of knocked it out of, being a catch and run for a touchdown. But that's the way I think you shut the Dolphins down. You have to beat them at the point of attack on the line of scrimmage. Yep. And if you can have one or two defenders win up front, it's going to disrupt the space and the timing that Tua has, because just think back to all the explosive plays. There's no one within 3 yards of Tua Tagovailoa when he's throwing the football, and the ball's gone in under 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. If you disrupt that space, he's not the biggest guy, and bigger and smaller guys have trouble looking around bodies that are, coming down the middle, coming down the pike. So that's how you do it.
Yeah, it was a shame. You don't usually see Hill drop a ball like that, and you can understand where he was kind of stretched out a little bit to make the catch, and then trying to keep his momentum going. Unfortunately, bopped the ball out of there off of his knee, and that cost the Dolphins a possibility of getting that touchdown. And otherwise, they're right there. And losing by the 2 scores, I mean, they get scored on late. So they held their own for a long period of time.
They held their own, and I couldn't believe the discrepancy in the penalties. There had
that was the thing. Is it possible? Yeah,
I don't think it is possible.
Has that ever happened? A team, Lubie says no penalties the entire game.
They had one penalty.
Not a single flag thrown against them.
Well, they had one, but it was I think
Decline.
It was
the offsetting, but they didn't
offsetting penalties. Yeah. But I mean, there was a face mask that was blatant on Wilson on the 4th down play. I think Bradbury,
and there's an official right there looking at it.
Right,
no call right there. There was a call in the middle of the field where I think a Philadelphia Eagle kind of clotheslined either Long or Baker coming in to make a tackle. There was no call for holding.
Oh yeah,
so illegal use of the hands. There was a few plays that were blatant that weren't called.
Such ugliness. I mean, Nick Sirianni, he should be the coach of the year. I mean, they always equate lack of penalties. They used to do it with Shula all the time. Well, you know what? It's the discipline of this team. And then the anti-Shula, critics would be screaming, he's on the rules committee.
Yeah, he's paying off the people on the rules committee.
Which may be true. I don't know. He was very intimidating, Shula, when he was angry, without even really having to get overly emotional about it. He would just give you that look with the chin, and you would think, fuck, I'm dog meat here. But almost impossible to go through an entire game like that without a single penalty. Hard to imagine that with the way the Dolphins are aggressive up front on the defensive line, how they possibly could avoid a single flag going against the Philadelphia Eagles that was enforced during the ball game. But that was that. All right, overall summation. Where are we at coming into this game? 5-2, not terrible. The Chiefs won, and they looked impressive yesterday. So they lead the pack now at 6-1 in the AFC. There's a matchup coming up, in 2 weeks in Germany with the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes. And that's thinking that the Dolphins should be able to dispatch at home the New England Patriots next week. So you would have them at 6-2, and the Chiefs possibly with the same record and/or 7-1.
7-1.
Where are we at with this Dolphin team? Still, you would have to think very viable among contenders, and not without the possibility, as surprising as it would seem, based on their early season offensive play, and not without the possibility of actually getting better.
I feel confident. If you're a Dolphin fan right now and you watch the games, you feel good. You feel pretty confident about where you're at. You didn't lose a whole lot of ground in last night's loss because it seemed like, the Bills didn't take advantage of a team that's struggling.
Yeah.
Kansas City's up there, but the good thing is you don't have to travel to Arrowhead to play them.
Nope.
I think it's going to be a much friendlier environment in Germany, no matter how many Kansas City fans travel for the game.
The Dolphins are really big worldwide for some.
Yeah, it's not going to be the hostile environment where they, have to go to Buffalo and face the crowd noise. You have to go to, Philadelphia and face the crowd noise. You have to go to Kansas City to face, the crowd noise, and very good teams, might I add, as well. Not only just, the outside influence. But in Germany, it's probably going to be, cut down the line 50-50. You'll be able to communicate, be able to not feel the pressure of the time clock because you can't hear or you can't get guys in motion the way you want to. That's a big thing about this offense. You have to have great eye discipline on defense when you're facing the Dolphins. And when the Dolphins come out of the huddle with good communication and they have plenty of time on the play clock, they use their motion where the defense is like, I got to look. There goes Hill. Waddle's moving. Where's Mostert? Now there's no backs in the backfield. There's a lot of things to process, and I think when you face the Dolphins in your home, we as the Dolphins haven't handled the communication part of the Mike McDaniel's offense very well, because the time clock gets into a point where you're stuck in that play. And the center communication, the silent snap seems like it gets botched up just about, once or twice a game, where you either hit a guy in motion with the snap or you get a low snap or you can't get the guys in the right spots. I don't think that's going to happen in Germany when they face Kansas City. So I think they're going to have a good chance to do what they want to do offensively.
It's funny. I used to do a bunch of voiceovers in English of fights that took place in Europe. And the crowd, I mean, one of the things, and you know this from doing, all of the ball games you did on ESPN and all your play-by-play and color analysis, the crowd can definitely kind of create an emotional level for you where you're sort of using that as fuel to emote your own level of excitement about the play, without, necessarily going into a screaming mode. But the crowds on these European matches, I mean, you wouldn't even know they were there. A guy is getting knocked out, and they're like this. I mean, like a golf crowd. It was incredible. And you're like, you're telling the guy as you're in the studio there, hey, can you feed me a little of that crowd noise? He goes, you're getting it at full volume. Shit, man. I mean, I feel like I'm screaming in, a room by myself here. It's nuts. But, so maybe that will be a big factor. That's 2 weeks away anyway, and you have to hope that the Patriots didn't find some kind of solution to a lot of their problems yesterday in that win that had to be, a big boost for them, because they were downtrodden there at 1-5 and all kinds of conversation. You didn't know if Mac Jones, wasn't going to go permanently into the Belichick doghouse. So that was a big victory for them. And, a lot of people thought, well, Philadelphia coming off that loss, what was an unfortunate circumstance, losing to the Jets the week before for the Dolphins, because it's one of those NFL wake-up calls. So,
the one thing I will add, guys, is that the Dolphins now, if they can get by New England and somehow get a victory against Kansas City, they're going to get healthy. The offensive line, you're going to get Armstead back probably within the next couple of weeks. He had to sit out the 4 weeks being placed on IR. You're going to get a Chan back to go with Mostert after that game. You're going to get Jalen Ramsey back, either at the Chiefs game or just after that game with X, who was out with a groin injury yesterday. So you're going to get more people slotted in to where they're supposed to play. Kader Kohou is not supposed to start at corner for the Miami Dolphins. He's going to start on the inside at nickel, where he can be a pest and he's a great tackler in the open field, and he can play closer to the line of scrimmage and cover that slot receiver. So you're going to have guys slotted in where they're more suited to play, and I think that's going to give the Dolphins also a kickstart, not only on the offensive line, but at corner and the defensive secondary, just as the Dolphins front seven start to turn up the heat and Vic Fangio starting to send more pressures that way. I think that's going to be what holds the Dolphin defense and kind of gives it a kick in the backside on the back end of the schedule.
Does CBS ante up the money to send you guys to Germany with the team?
No.
Wouldn't that be important to get the flavor of what's going on there? I mean,
it would be important, Defo. It would be important, but I'll be home in South Florida. I think Kim Bocamper is going to be on the road.
Oh, yeah?
For CBS 4 and for the Dolphins.
Okay. No, Kim's good at that stuff, when he does the scene, deal. He's visiting all of the important sites to visit in Germany. Give Kim this when he's there. Ich liebe dich. All right.
Okay.
So German, I know my mother's from sort of Germany/Poland. She was, from a place called Danzig, which was known as the Free City of Danzig, which is kind of a border city. I guess now it's considered Polish, but then it was German. And it means I love you. So
okay.
Tell Kim to walk up to every hot chick in Germany and say Ich liebe dich and see what happens. He won't be insulting them. He'd just be telling them that he loves them. So
that's all.
Other than that, I think I can count to 9, and that's about it. So I wouldn't be much use as a translator on the trip. All right, let's scan a couple of other things around the NFL, and then we'll get in some college ball. And wow, I mean, the Cristobal stuff. I literally was screaming at the television set. Screaming, John. I don't get like this. I just sedately watch games by myself, petting the dog, whatever, debating whether or not to go up to the fridge and have another chicken wing. And, I'm sitting here watching this in stunned disbelief that this guy is going to sit on the ball with over a minute to go. I know he had the freshman quarterback, true freshman, but the guy was already finding a groove in the second half. And you would think that you could dink and dunk your way and hope to get 40 yards. And at the worst, if it doesn't work, wow, you're not going to make the big turnover. And at the worst, you're in overtime, which is what you're trying to, do anyway with the way that he called the plays. But I thought that was just astonishingly stupid, the way that he approached this thing. Because I don't know about you, but do you not feel that the overtime in college football is just
a crapshoot? It's a flip of the coin. You're at the mercy of 2-point plays. It almost seems like at the end. When you get the ball in the 25 and if you go backwards at all, you go, okay, we got to get in field goal mode. We got to get points, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I was watching the Florida State game pretty much. And then I turned over to the Miami game when it was getting interesting. Miami seemed like they had a lot of momentum built.
They make a great comeback in the game.
Huge fourth quarter. I think Williams, the quarterback, was 14 of 17 or some bizarre number. I saw the stat between the first half and the second half. Although the first half wasn't bad percentage-wise, they just didn't throw the football down the field.
He threw the ball 2 yards, each time.
Yeah, he was like 10 of 17 for like 31 yards. And then in the second half, he was 14 of 17, I believe, for over 120 or over 130 yards, and they were moving the football. So, yeah, I would agree with you. I thought they had the momentum and they had Clemson on their heels. They could have at least, how sometimes coaches, let's try a play here. And if we get some success on first down, now we'll kick it into, no huddle, and we'll continue to get an up-tempo pace and see if we can't end this in regulation. But when it went to overtime, I felt like Miami was the better team and that Clemson was going to have trouble handling the front seven of Miami because they were dominant in that second half. They had that quarterback running all over the place.
Yeah,
and when they took advantage of getting on the board first, you felt like they were gonna find a way to get it done.
Between the Georgia Tech thing though and this, I mean, it's astonishing to me. I know Lubie, he's been screaming about this forever. That Mario Cristobal, and I think the rest of the country, would possibly agree that not the greatest game day coach that you've ever seen. I don't know that you would pick him. They always say, well, if you had one guy to, come to the plate and bat in this situation, or one quarterback to throw a pass, if you had one coach, to try and go out and close out a game, I think the last guy on everybody's list right now would be Mario Cristobal. But, I mean, if I'm a player, I thought that was despicable. Really, all you have to do, I mean, even if you just dump the ball into the middle of the field and hope a guy breaks a tackle, we've seen it how many times, and in a lot of these close finishes in the NFL yesterday. A guy goes 30 yards on one of those plays, and next thing you know, you're in field goal range.
I mean,
It happened in the Atlanta game, and as the Falcons beat Tampa Bay.
But that's what was confusing. That's why the announcers are like, "What the like?" Because the first play they did pass, and they completed it and got 2 yards. That's why it was like,
yeah,
"Oh, okay, they're going
that's
for
what I was saying."
And then he ran 5 times. It's like, what?
It was nuts. I mean, the handoff up the middle, John. Come on.
What Defo and I were talking about, Lubie, is like usually you have that one play, you give it a shot, right? Let's dial up a play that if we get some positive yardage, we're going to go into a little bit more up-tempo, hurry-up situation, and we're going to keep the pressure on because now we've got a chance to close it out in regulation. So, and I believe it was Wes and Matt Hasselbeck again, the same guys that called
Tim Hasselbeck.
Tim Hasselbeck,
the Georgia Tech fiasco at the end there.
Yep.
They were the same guys questioning, like, what's going on again? Can you believe this? So yeah, I mean, there's a way to do it and a way not to do it. And it seems like Miami got very fortunate that they were able to have their defense hold up inside the 5-yard line there, because if Clemson scores and gets 2, that's got to be demoralizing. Now all those questions are resurfacing. If you happen to lose that game, you go back to those 2 instances where you go, how could we put ourselves in those situations? It's a complete errors by that entire coaching staff, but it all rests with Mario and his decisions.
I would never want to subject myself to the bizarre possibilities that can occur in an overtime, the way the college overtime is decided. I mean, it's just it's too ridiculous to think that it's one thing if you have 14 seconds to go and you're at your own 4. Okay, so maybe
let's get it to overtime.
Yeah.
Let's get it to overtime. Yeah.
Okay, that's understandable. But with over a minute to go, I believe he had timeouts at his disposal also, either 1 or 2.
Yeah,
2 timeouts. That's plenty of time to move the ball 40 yards, is it not? And you were moving the ball successfully against this Clemson
I don't
team.
even know you needed to move it 40. I think
they got the ball at like the 30, 35 yard line or something. Yeah.
Maybe you're right, but it wasn't after the first positive play. You're thinking, okay, they're going to go for it now. They got
exactly.
They got momentum.
So I have it here with a minute 26. That's what was pissed. It wasn't like it was 40 seconds. It was a minute
of time.
28. It wasn't at the 5, the 28, and then they throw it right over the middle. A very dangerous pass. Easy reception for 6 yards. They got to the line, ran it again with a minute, got a first down. So now the clock stops, and you have 2 timeouts. So it's a minute from nearly the 40 with 2 timeouts, and the clock stopped.
Right, and you need maybe 30 more yards.
Yeah,
it's insane. I mean, literally. I mean, if the first thing wasn't a fireable offense with the kneeling down, I thought, my God, what kind of chicken shit strategy is this? I mean, who would want to open up the possibility of a loss in that spot?
Just think of the conversations everybody would have been having Sunday morning had they lost that game.
I started to root for them to lose just based on the stupidity. and then Cristobal's like a big hero after the ball game. And I'm thinking, my God, this guy couldn't do any more to sabotage his team's chances as a game day decision maker than we've seen so far this year. And that's been his history. And, it's definitely a cause of concern. The season is already, somewhat blown anyway, based on the 2 losses that they've suffered. But, and then subsequent to that, you had North Carolina get beaten by Virginia,
right?
Who I guess comes in next. And then, I didn't want to necessarily bring this up, but our good friends at Pittsburgh going down to West Virginia, that was no fun. Or Wake Forest, right? Was it?
Yeah,
Wake beat them.
Yeah, that was a talk about bad calls. The quarterback for Pitt kind of slides ahead of the first down marker, and that's gonna win the game. And the officials called him like a yard or 2 short or shy. I guess they do it where you start the slide, but when you watch it on replay, he was well past the line to gain. I didn't watch the game. I just saw the highlights. But there was a couple of instances where at Florida State they showed the exact same scenario where their quarterback starts to slide well before the yard to gain, and it was a first down. So yeah, I think Pitt got hosed by the officials there at Wake Forest.
I was a little upset that Duke just let them waltz into the end zone there for the easy cover after laying 14.5 with Duke in that ball game. That last touchdown was particularly painful. You could see it coming, though, from a mile away. All right, a lot of wild stuff, both in the NFL, not involving the local teams. We'll get into that, and around college football as well. Ohio State, Penn State, most of the experts were all over Penn State. They look like shit.
Yeah.
This Franklin, I mean, he's like 1-10 in these spots where he's playing a top 10 team. I think, has an horrendous, hasn't won a game on the road. And on top of that, I mean, just continues to get clobbered by Ohio State. I don't know what kind of jeopardy that puts his tenure in. I mean, he's generally a widely respected coach, but wow, I don't know how long you can keep doing that. Only Jimbo Fisher. What are we talking about here? You're just losing to the key rival in your conference. Michigan was untested against Michigan State. So we'll get into all of this with John Congemi. But the place to be for all, I mean, especially now that we're getting this low humidity, John, I mean, it looks like you might have spent a Saturday down there at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill because you got the good tan. Either that or you're wearing a shade of makeup that is absolutely as natural looking as anything. But
I wish.
Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, great place to go.
Yeah, you know what? You're right about the temperature, and it's cooling off. But the place that isn't cooling off is down at Jimmy Johnson's. It just seems like every Saturday for college football and Sundays for the NFL, and I'm sure for Monday Night Football, that place is going crazy, and it's a fun environment. Whether you're just going to watch a game at the sports bar or kick back at the tiki bar or just kind of hang out and have a great meal. Or you're traveling from somewhere else in the Keys, coming back north to either Dade or Broward or West Palm, and you stop in to grab a couple pizzas for the ride home. Just an awesome place to be. And I'm sure with the Bears taking down the Raiders yesterday, it wasn't the best of moods for the staff, but I'm sure they put on a good face and made everybody have a good time down at Jimmy Johnson's because they have that stadium atmosphere down there. If you're watching football, it's the place to be in the Keys.
What is that joint that we used to consider a landmark there, Florida City? The Mutineer? Is that what it's actually called?
Is that what it is?
I mean, imagine you had that as one of your only destinations exiting the Keys there, and now right there at the top at mile marker 104, as you're heading into that stretch where you're thinking, how long does this go on for? You could stop in at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, have yourself a good time, maybe even stay overnight. The accommodations are unbelievable, and great if you're a couple of families or couples that are friendly. You get together, you can share the room there. It's just absolutely phenomenal, and taking that great atmosphere right on the bay. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. All right, a wide variety of stuff here, John. I mean, almost too much. I couldn't believe it. I spent the whole day Saturday. I was going to go to the track. I had a racing form for free that I'd gotten from Mike Mayo for Saturday's card. I had already kind of dialed up a couple of races and thought, wow, let me get off the couch. And I started watching Ohio State and Penn State. And then it just morphed right into the FSU game later on that evening. You had Alabama and Tennessee. What was an interesting contest as it looked like Tennessee had them handled. And then second half was all Alabama. And we had to put up with the insufferable Nick Saban. In a good mood yesterday as he was talking about the Tua Jalen Hurts relationship,
right?
When they were in Alabama, and if you think back, I mean that was pretty remarkable. Those two guys, when they were there, I don't know. I mean, when you, I don't know who was your backup at Pitt. I mean, you were there. What were you backing up Marino at one point yourself?
I was a freshman when Dan was a senior. Yeah, so
okay, so you weren't making a big case to replace him in the starting lineup.
No, not at all.
But those guys, were somewhat interchangeable. And you would think, Jalen Hurts ended up exiting Alabama after being beaten out for the job by Tua Tagovailoa. And, they remained very close and supportive of each other, which is kind of cool. So we'll get into the rest of college football and the NFL with John Congemi, the Pigskin Playbook, in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Very nice of you to get up early, too, to be with us today, John. After I didn't realize you were going to like 1 a.m. last night.
No problem. Always glad to do it.
It's 8:51.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
We welcome to the show John Congemi, who joins us for Dateline Dolphins. John, how are you, my friend?
Defo, I'm doing well, and that's not the only thing that's going to reach a new height. I'll be at about 220, 225 after this football season if we visit too much. Because the food's outstanding down at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. A few more minutes to go with John Congemi as he does the Pigskin Playbook with us every Monday, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill in Key Largo. All right, let's look at this Ohio State-Penn State game. Two teams that I root for to lose every game. I don't like either school.
I definitely root for one of those to lose every game. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio State, Penn State, neither of them favorites of mine. What do you make? I mean, with this Franklin, widely respected. Everybody loves the job that he's done there at Penn State, and yet he comes up a loser in these spots as a matter of routine. I mean, at what point do the natives get restless in Philadelphia? We know, or in Pennsylvania, we know the fans there, can be, fairly loud and vociferous in terms of their opinion. What did you make of that? I mean, Ohio State, even though the score was 20-12, they really handled Penn State. I believe that Penn State's only first down on a third down conversion came when they scored a touchdown late in the ballgame. Other than that, they were 0 for 15 on third down conversions. Almost impossible, you would think. That's not always a stat that you can use, as a barometer, but 0 for 15, that big fat round number with 15 attempts on third down conversions, you would think would be suspect enough to indicate which team lost the game. But what did you think of that? Did Ohio State establish itself as a viable power? And where does that leave Penn State after that loss, and Franklin in particular?
I think the only difference between these two teams is Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, basically, if you put Marvin Harrison on Penn State, they may win 20-12.
Okay.
I think that they're capable offenses against any other team not named Penn State, Ohio State, or Michigan. Anybody else in the Big Ten, they're going to roll over. And it doesn't really matter where they play, when they play. They're going to have enough talent to beat them. Now, James Franklin has had, I think going back, the game they beat Ohio State, it took a block kick, like a field goal, I think was blocked, or a punt was blocked at Happy Valley. They run it into the end zone. And I think that's the one victory that is on that ledger against Ohio State, and
top 10 opponents, I guess.
Yeah, and top 10 opponents. Yeah, so they've struggled mightily against them, and young quarterbacks. Yeah, two really good defenses going against each other. Ohio State has a young quarterback as well. They were just able to win the field position battle because Penn State was so poor on third down. They were always punting on a long field, it seemed like. Not much differences between the two teams, line play. I thought the defenses were very similar. It just came down to one guy being able to get open with more regularity, and Penn State doesn't have a guy even close to that on offense.
All right, some of the other results. Oklahoma, surprisingly, I mean, had to stave off a 2-point conversion, which pretty crafty play that UCF had drawn up. It failed, and it turned out they had like 3 guys covering the receiver, and they were all over the guy that caught the pitch, was going to throw some kind of flea flicker play. And so they win by 2. They're rated very highly. Alabama, everybody was saying that Alabama is back. I mean, did you see that? Because they were being handled in the first
They
half
were.
by Tennessee. Tennessee was up. What were they up 20-3 at one point in that ball game? They had a pretty substantial grip on winning the thing, and then Bama dominated the second half, came back and shut them out.
Well, you know what,
going away.
Defo, that game should have been worse had it not been for a couple defensive stands by Alabama in that first half.
Yeah.
Tennessee was knocking at the door for touchdowns. They had to settle for field goals, and you knew at some point Alabama was going to get their feet underneath them at home and come back and mount a comeback. So I kind of look back at that game. If you're Tennessee, you look back at the missed opportunities to cash in the red zone for 6 points instead of settling for 3. It came back to grab you at the end.
Texas life and death to beat Houston. I think Houston was in there with a shot to win the ball or tie the ball game at the end.
Yes.
And the team that looked really good, and we have to kind of lay a little lollipop there for Mike Lubie Lubitz to tee up on the show here. Florida State, but with a dominating performance in the second half against Duke, and they win that. They just flat out wore them out. I mean, with all of the talent that they have.
Hey guys, is there any other school that you love to see sour than USC? At the end of the game
I'm a
sideline?
USC fan, believe it or not.
Yeah, but it just looks so bad on them.
Yeah.
When you pan to Williams on the
Those
bench,
Beach Boys were bummed out, man.
the cat's making $4-point-something million, and he's just he already's got a Heisman in his pocket, and they have no defense, I guess.
Oh, it's so bad.
Zero, yeah.
So bad.
And they had this game. They had it in the bag, and then they really choked at the end against Utah, who came back with a game-winning field goal after they got down 32-31. Williams is not even mentioned in the Heisman chase. Some of the little capsulizations of Heisman candidates that I see, not even mentioned anymore, which you would have
Who
thought.
do they have? The Michigan quarterback up there first, probably?
Michigan quarterback is starting to make a big ascent. That guy Penix, I guess, had a lousy game.
It was horrendous.
For Washington, so his stock slipped. I don't know. Did you have a wager on that before the season, Johnny? Did you mention?
No,
Did you bet the Heisman?
I didn't even look at it, to be honest with you.
You're not inclined to do insanely stupid stuff like bet on the Heisman trophy?
Futures.
No,
okay.
that's right alongside preseason football, right?
Well, I don't know. Preseason, the Heisman, though, usually it's a fairly narrow field. The weird thing is it's only quarterbacks that get consideration. Although Marvin Harrison Jr. now is mentioned as one of the top guys in there, which. It seems a little far-fetched, but maybe the quarterbacks kind of cancel each other out because none of them has been overwhelmingly brilliant throughout the season, and you would have to think that Caleb Williams is probably out of it. All right, I know you have to run, and it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for getting up and doing this. I didn't realize you had late-night duty last night. I figured CBS probably blew this off since they didn't have the game.
No, but, I wasn't that fortunate.
Like back in the day, when we were doing pregame shows for the Dolphin games, but our station wasn't carrying the Dolphins game. So, the other guys that were doing the pregame show were at the stadium, and we were shoveling quarters into a payphone at the IHOP there on University. Yeah, we on the air? Yeah, okay, we got Joe Zagacki. He's at the stadium. Where are you, Joe, in the parking lot? And that was our coverage of the game. So I didn't know if you would be doing that, but I guess they have the usual protocol. So we'll see if the Phins can bounce back next week. Always a pleasure, my friend. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, John Congemi, the Pigskin Playbook, every Monday right here on a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday on the Defo Show. Thanks so much. Always great having you on.
You got it, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot. John Congemi, ladies and gentlemen. Pigskin Playbook. All right, still to come, we'll have a conversation with the agent of the Stars, Brett Tesser. We'll get his perusal of the NFL. Other stuff going on. Friday was just unbelievable, Lubie. I know you're not into the baseball playoffs, and I was flipping back and forth with this Astros game last night. It ended up being a blowout, but it was close for most of the game. Ended up 9-2. The Rangers forcing a Game 7, which is tonight against the Houston Astros. So a lot of compelling sports viewing again tonight. You do have the 49ers in action to finish off the National Football League's itinerary. They go against the Vikings, who are, as of now, 6.5-point underdogs. And I think they're at home to the 49ers, are they not? Yes.
Yeah, but they're not good.
No, 49ers are at home. Okay. Against the Vikings. So what do you think? My buddy Francesco, after a big week last week, right now sits at 0-6 on his NFL picks for the week. Lost every fucking game. That's why, as we've been saying, it's always good to be the book. It doesn't matter. You could get clobbered one week, and you're coming right back the next week and burying all of your faithful clients. There's no question. And so he has Minnesota tonight to dodge 0-7. Last week, actually, who was on Monday Night Football? And they covered the point spread. But I needed them. That was my only chance to win a game last week. So it's gone in complete reverse. A league that looked extremely easy to pick all of a sudden became rather difficult. So we'll have the Agent of the Stars, Brett Tesser, but the baseball Friday night, two of the most amazing games I've seen, Louie. If you invest a lot of time in watching baseball, you love this when this happens. Explosive finishes to both ball games as you had the Astros rally on Friday night to take the lead in the series at 3-2. So far, all 6 games in that Rangers-Astros series, amazingly, have been won by the road team. All 6 games.
Wow, okay.
There hasn't been a home victory yet, and the Astros naturally would hope that trend changes tonight. As who are they sending out there? Is that game going tonight?
Yes, both games are tonight. Yes.
Okay, because they don't list it here. Yeah, you got the D-backs and the Phillies. The Phillies send out Nola, and they're trying to close it out.
The Rangers are really going to throw Scherzer again? Would they really throw Scherzer?
Oh, yeah, Scherzer is scheduled to go.
Shit, they can't throw him again.
Wow, how weird is that, huh? You invest all this money in a late-season acquisition. The guy goes south on you. He wasn't having the greatest season. I mean, he was okay when he was with the Mets, but often injured, Max Scherzer. Postseason struggles, well chronicled. And got shelled in his performance earlier in the series when they threw him out there for Game 3. So your hopes of going to the World Series and winning that first championship in franchise history, right? Rangers have 0 World Series titles, I want to say.
Yeah, they never won.
They're all contingent on this guy that's 40-something years old, although, the Astros, threw Verlander out there. And, he has so far come through. But that'll be interesting tonight. Those Friday games, though, where the Astros, Altuve hits a 3-run shot to give the Astros a lead in the 8th inning, and they hold on in the 9th to take that 3-2 lead in the series. And then the Diamondbacks on that same night came back from the dead with a 9th inning rally? Yeah, I believe it was a 9th inning rally after they were trailing Philadelphia earlier in the ballgame, like in the 7th inning. They were down 5-2. They made it 5-3. So they went to the 9th down by 2, and they ended up rallying for 3 runs and held on to win that game. 2 very exciting conclusions there for teams that were trying to crawl their way into the World Series. Great turnarounds and dramatic comebacks in both of those Friday night games. Sensational stuff. So, yeah, big night of baseball viewing tonight, Mike Lubitz, as you have both of these games going, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 5 o'clock, it's Diamondbacks-Phillies, Game 6. And 8 o'clock, Rangers-Astros, Game 7, if necessary, which it became just that.
Yes.
With the explosive. And then you had that incident with Garcia and the brawl for it all.
There was a fight. There was like a brawl. I saw that part. I didn't actually get to see it, but I saw the brawl.
Really stupid, though. I mean, Garcia had issues with the Astros earlier in the year, I guess. There was some bad blood between them. And then he hits a home run. And, he does the whole big act there. I don't know. A guy hits a home run off you. How upset can you be if he stands there and admires it for a while and then throws the bat? I mean, it's not my style, but, I don't care that the guy does that. Just suck it up and throw the next pitch, right?
I mean,
so he comes up, and the Astros at the time are trailing 4-2, Lubie. I believe this was in the 7th inning. They're trailing 4-2. And there's a guy on first base, and I think 1 away. And they hit Garcia with a pitch. There's no way that's an intentional. I mean, if the pitcher deliberately hit Garcia in retaliation for him showboating, if you were Dusty Baker, you would come out to the mound and lift that guy yourself, would you not? And so the umpires, as Garcia goes off and gets in the face of the Astros catcher, then both squads come out on the field. It really wasn't much of a melee or anything. Like nothing of any consequence happened. There were no punches. Nobody got tackled. There was no Don Zimmer getting stepped on by Pedro Martinez. None of that was going on. It was, fairly tepid. They settled it early. And then the umpires decided to throw the pitcher, the Astros pitcher, out of the game. And they ejected Garcia also. Which the Garcia thing I could have seen. I mean, he was the guy that provoked this whole thing. He was almost like Donald Trump standing on the podium there going, "We're going to go down to the Capitol." Way to incite a riot there, Donnie boy. How come nobody ever mentions that anymore except those people in Georgia? Where they're flipping, I mean, like pancakes, are they not?
Yeah, well, at some point you realize, fuck, that guy truly doesn't give a shit about me. Who am I being loyal to?
Why would you go to jail? Yeah, to support this.
Being loyal to a guy that's doesn't show any loyalty to you. Like Trump's never shown any loyalty. He doesn't show loyalty to his children. Like that's why
there's not a soul in there. I don't think.
No, there never was. That's the funny thing when people are like defend him wholeheartedly. I'm like, I've never defended any politician. Like of all the politicians to defend. Like he's clearly doesn't give a shit about you. Like I know Biden honestly doesn't really care about me, but
Biden looks like he's really ready to keel over, doesn't he? I mean, it's a shame.
Like he's always his whole career faded, like he's friendly Joe. Maybe he's bullshitting, probably, but at least he tries to fake it. Like Donald Trump's been blatant. Yeah, I don't give a fuck about you. Like I don't care about you. Like he says it.
Everybody that's associated with him is either in jail or up on some kind of serious charges. That's including what all of these rioters from January 6th. How many did they put away already? I guess that's the weaponization of the Department of Justice. No, that's the only thing it could be. But anyway, just absolutely screaming. And it was a joke to consider that. How could you even think for a second that a pitcher would throw at a guy deliberately as a retaliation for showboating? In a spot like that, when you're trying to make the World Series, late inning, ball game, and 4-2, you're losing at the time. It's not like they were up 10-1. The last thing you want to do is put another guy on base. The absolute last thing. So
baseball's weird.
To consider that, an ejectable offense, and then Dusty Baker gets thrown out of the game as well. But I don't know that I've ever seen Dusty Baker. They say he used to have a hot temper. I don't ever recall that. Because he was such a gentleman. I've told the story many times, Lubie, that I was one of the original guys that I sat down and interviewed for any length of time when I was a Cub reporter there in Fontana. And, he couldn't have been any more of a gentleman. I mean, really, a guy who was an intimidating force on the baseball field, but couldn't have been a nicer guy. And seems that way, right? He does those in-game interviews as if he's sitting there watching the game with the reporter. Where you would think that would be just a completely, impossible thing to go ahead and coordinate. Where the last thing the manager wants to do is in the middle of an inning, actually, while the game is in action, talk to some guy. It's one thing, between innings or whatever, but they're actually sitting there with Dusty. You're like, yeah, well, you know what? That fastball looked like it was a little outside. Crazy shit. Anyway, it'll be Game 7 tonight. So a lot of viewing in addition to the Vikings game and the 49ers later on this evening, which I have only an interest in because it would be nice to sweep the board. Guy's making a comeback, and next thing you know, he's buried again. Incredible. All right, coming back with more. The Agent of the Stars is going to join us, Brett Tesler, here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie. Lubitz, a week from today. Are we ready for this, Lubie?
No.
Is the world ready for this? Is Tony Bruno ready for this? Tony Bruno Radio. Do we have a simple way of telling people how they can tune this in? Or do we have any idea ourselves yet?
I wanted to post on Facebook, the press release, but which I don't know how to do, so you couldn't have done. There's an app. It's Tony Bruno Sports Network app, and that's what it's going to be on for now. They have it for both Android and Apple. It's easy to download, and that's where you'll find our show. I think we'll be on in 2 weeks. They will start live a week from today. They'll start a live week from today.
Okay. All right. So what? We're not debuting next Monday?
Oh, there's no way. It's mathematically impossible. But we haven't done one test. They're all going to be live in studio, but us, and we have not tested once. So I need at least a week of testing to make sure that we're good, because this thing's actually pretty real deal. So, but the Tony Bruno Sports Network, the app's already up. Android, Apple, go check it out. We will be a part of the lineup. I would say 2 weeks from today, they will be live starting a week from today. So you can check it out. Tony Bruno Sports Network. Check out the app.
Let's hope they're getting off to a rocking start. Yeah. We'd like to be there from the beginning, but that's unfortunate, Louis, that you deliver this news because supposedly, according to my horoscope, this is like going to be the greatest period of time in my life in all aspects, and especially they keep emphasizing creativity and business. So, good time to get something started, right? While all of the stars are lined up in a favorable position, which they were for Mario Cristobal. That was, I mean, how can you possibly do that? Lubie, I thought that was just about as atrocious as anything I've ever seen, including the non-kneeling play, where not anybody in the on the planet would have made the same move as Mario Cristobal. And I mean, the fans were. Did you see the people in the stands? Which it was pretty good support for a game in this contest against Clemson.
I think it was Clemson. I would hope it would be a sellout. I don't think it was.
It may not have been. I don't know that they ever sell out Hard Rock Stadium with Canes. No, I really don't. I mean, they just don't even come close. It seems like. But the crowd was great. I mean, it was a very supportive and loud and influential crowd, I thought, and they were screaming. I mean, they panned the crowd. The guys were, "What are you fucking doing?"
Because he had gotten to the 40 with a minute with 2 timeouts. Like all you need at that point is 35 yards. Like,
how do you? I mean, they could have brought in Chuck Mersine and the ice ball and just had him skate around until they got into range there for that final block there, Jerry Kramer. But throw a bunch of dink and dunk passes and hope a guy breaks a tackle. How ridiculous. To run the ball up the middle, I mean, just a disgrace.
He just coaches scared. Look, and here's the thing: as a fan of a team coached by Mike Norvell and Mike McDaniel, they go the other way a lot, and it gets going, passing up on field goals, time and time again. But one thing you see later in games is their team is behind them, and their team shows up. So it's like, okay, I don't like that you are giving away 3 points on a 4th and 3 times a game, but it's instilling a confidence not only that you're exuding, but in your team. Cristobal is 180 degrees the opposite. Like,
my God,
give me calls that are easy. It's like, come on, you got to go. It's 4th and 1 from like the 30, 35. You're not going to make that field goal. Fuck it. The dude will like punt. It's like, dude, he coaches so scared.
Oh my God. I mean, this was negative absurdity. It really was. I couldn't believe it. I literally was stunned when he started handing the ball off up the middle and then let the time evaporate completely.
Well, and they would gain yards. He would get like 4 yards. Like, okay, fuck it, I guess the run worked. And they would like strut around. It's like, what did he do?
Anything. I mean, some kind of play action pass, take a shot down the field. Well, what's the worst that can happen? But, and I understand. Look, they had a true freshman plan that was pressed into service. They thought Van Dyke was going to play, I think, or it was possible. It was at least 50-50. So I'm not sure that this kid, what is it, Williams, ended up.
He wasn't even a high recruit. Like, the guy's not supposed to play for like 3 years.
Right, and they treated him like a rookie raw stiff in the beginning of the game. I mean, if he threw one more of those wide receiver screens, you were thinking, how is this not getting picked off and taken back to the house? I mean, that's a very dangerous play to go to 6 straight times, and that's going to be your only passing play. I don't care how good these guys are, Restrepo and company. Still, I mean, you just can't make that your only pass play. And then they started to open it up a little bit, almost by force that they had to.
Yeah.
And the kid acquitted himself very well. So why wouldn't you? With timeouts, you can use the middle of the field or all kinds of things this guy could have attempted there. And ultimately, as you said, they were at the 40-yard line. So what did they need to go? Another 30 yards.
30, 35.
With like a minute and change and or a little under a minute by the time they got to that point. Mm-hmm. Plenty of time. I mean, to move the ball, and they have a good field goal kicker. The guy's been pretty accurate. I mean, this isn't like some, guy that's going to kick a line drive into the ass of the guy who snapped the ball and have it bounce back for some horrendous beat. But I would never. I just think it's arbitrary, the overtime situation in college football. Not that it's unfair or anything. Some people favor it over the NFL. But it just seems like the last thing you'd want to subject yourself to is the sort of arbitrary nature of how those games are going to turn out. I would never play for that. Anyway, all right, we'll come back with more. Brett Tesser, the agent of the Star, is going to join us as we continue here on a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubie Lubitz. So the rumors of our
we're joining them. We're going to be a part of it. If you notice, there's gaps in their schedule. I mean, I'd love to start next Monday. We haven't done a test yet, and it's Monday, and I don't have one scheduled for today. So I want to make sure to test phones. I want to make sure to test hookups. I want to make sure when we go with them, it's right. So
now is this going to be a show that also is handling call-ins?
Yes,
from listeners,
the phone line, that's going to come through to me.
Okay.
So hopefully everything will come through out of this, so it'll make it nice and easy. So that's the thing is, I don't think it'll be difficult to do. It's just we have to test. We have to make sure our link up with their studio, because they have a studio and they're going to all be like old school radio in a studio.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But we're not, I'm not.
Well, one of the other guys, Tony now resides like in Fort Myers or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the west coast of Florida, southwest coast, and I guess the morning show guy is from that area. So he's going to just saunter over there. For us, it would be prohibitive, that's for sure.
Oh, it's fine. It's perfect this way. It's cool. It'll sound radio for now.
Because we're coming from the big city. That's the beauty of it.
There you go. It will be fine. It's worth announcing. It's a thing. Tony Bruno Sports Network. Go download the app.
I hope it works. I really do. I mean, I'm very excited about this one because I'm a big Tony Bruno fan, in spite of his leanings towards one Donald J. Trump, which it's always weird. I mean, but I have a lot of intelligent friends that are Trump supporters.
Yes.
I just don't bring it up anymore, except to laugh about it.
I don't even laugh. I give you credit. I don't bring it up at all.
Which I would imagine we'll have to confine, some of our comments about that, not to incur the wrath of the boss. Yeah, I don't think he would hold it against us though. I mean, he's looking for creativity here.
Exactly.
Yeah, Bruno's great. All right, we'll come back with more in a moment. Now that
The time.
Oh, you froze at the moment of truth there, Lubie. It's 9:18. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
Simple pleasures of this job, the way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field, the way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the stars, the one and only Brett Tesler.
All right, welcome back to the show. Going to round things out here with the agent of the stars, Brett Tesler, on Appeal Yourself Off the Mat Monday, and we welcome the one and only. I mean, a guy that you have to say as self-made as anybody has ever been, right? Was in a little townhouse. Had one client on the Miami Dolphins. Was mostly a special teams player, and blossomed into one of the top and most influential people in the National Football League from the agent side of things. So, Brett Tesler, the agent of the stars, joins us here on the show. Brett, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, guy. Good to be with you.
Good morning, Testman.
I'm blanking. And it was a real good guy. You're a guy on the Dolphins. Your first client that you represented, and you're still friends today, are you not?
Absolutely. Once somebody joins the Tesler family, they're a part of it forever. And as great as it is to work with guys throughout their career, it's even more rewarding to see the results many years down the road, to see them, in many cases get married, start families. It's a very rewarding business on many levels.
Yeah. Who was it again? I'm blanking on the name, and I can picture him, and he was just a super guy. You're
Trent Gamble.
Trent Gamble, that was it. Yeah, Trent Gamble.
Trent
Yeah.
Gamble. Oh, Jesus.
Good job. And that's been some ride ever since. All right, what did you take away from the game last night, Brett Tessler? What did you see there?
I took away that the Dolphins got beat by a very, very good team. I mean, the Eagles are one of the few best teams in the league. There's no question about it. Jalen Hurts is just one of the most dynamic all-around weapons. Offensive line on that team is just incredible, and the defensive line on that team may be even better. And so it's a really good team. And you basically saw the Eagles defensive line dominate the Dolphins offensive line. And obviously the Dolphins offensive line is depleted with injuries. And so, it's understandable how that can happen. But the Eagles defensive line is the best in the NFL. My client, Mostert, ended up having a good game, averaged 5 yards a carry, but everything there was a struggle. Every inch that they tried to earn on the ground was an absolute battle. None of the other running backs were really able to get anything. And that's just the way it is against a team like that. And so I think the Dolphins realized what they had to do to try to win the game. And so, the passing game was looking good. I mean, Tua made some absolutely just amazing spot throws. And looks like there could have been, a route issue or two that might have led to something bad happening for them, and they lost the game. And it's the NFL, and, anybody can beat anybody. I mean, you saw the Patriots beat the Bills yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's why you can't discount the other wins that the Dolphins have gotten, because every team in this league competes. Every team in this league has talent. And frankly, every team in this league can win a game on any given weekend. So Dolphins are a really, really good team. And, as they approach the postseason, the biggest thing for every team is who's healthy, who's playing. If a starter's out, who's stepping up as a backup and getting the job done. So it's better that the Dolphins have to go through these issues right now in the first half of the season, as opposed to a couple months from now as they're approaching or advancing through the playoffs. So they're going to be fine. The defense obviously continues to be a little bit of a work in progress, and you see certain breakdowns, but again, it's okay. There's good players there that will be coming back, and I think the team will continue to win a lot of games, and hopefully, again, they're clicking as they approach the postseason.
You have your finger on the pulse of underground movements that may be blossoming into things that have to be laid out on the table in the NFL. What's happening with the push play? Nobody else can execute it. It seems like the Philadelphia Eagles. I've seen other teams try it and they just fail abysmally. And yet, I mean, here's Sirianni. I mean, think about what he did. He's got the ball 4th and 1, and might have even been a long one.
Should have been 4th and 1.
At his own 25 at a time where you're in a 7-point game, and he goes for the push play. And sure enough, it works, and it worked all 4 times that they tried it. What's going to happen there, Brett Tessler? When is the rest of the league going to say, hey, wait a minute, this shouldn't be? I mean, I guess, what? There's nothing you could look at in the rule book that would say that it would be illegal?
It was illegal.
I personally hate it. I think it's dull.
Yeah, I think it's
obnoxious.
bullshit.
I think it's, frankly, unstoppable. And so the truth is, it's one of those things where, yes, every team cannot execute it as well as the Eagles do, because, it starts with Jason Kelce, who's one of the greatest centers of all time, and a guy who, while he isn't the biggest or strongest center, he's a guy who's incredibly flexible. He's a guy who has a naturally low leverage and balance of gravity. And so he's the perfect guy to start that exchange with the quarterback and basically submarine the defensive line. And no matter how low those defensive linemen try to get, once they get that surge going, once Kelsey's able to get the initial leverage up front, along with usually the left guard on that team, then you got Jalen Hurts, who again is athletic and strong and powerful, as probably anybody in the league pound for pound. And then behind that, you've got two guys who have great leverage and great strength, and they're shoving him forward into an offensive line that's shoving a defensive line forward, and he basically just sort of surfs the wave, and it's an easy first down. I mean, it's one of those things where when it's 4th and 2 inches, I mean, you see them getting 2 yards. It's ridiculous just how absolutely unstoppable it is. And so it's one of those things where if the league wants to allow it to continue, they'll continue to have success with it. Not every team can execute it the way they can, but I think it's one of those things where now that this season, it's something that everybody has been looking at so closely and talking about, and in many cases hating. I mean, I don't think teams like when it's done against them. I feel like with an entire off season to work at it, I think any team can do it with great success. Maybe not necessarily the exact success the Eagles have, because I'm telling you right now, I honestly believe at this point it's 100 out of 100 play.
It was yesterday.
Can be stopped. I think if they do it 100 times, they're gonna get 100 first downs. And so I don't give it. It doesn't matter if they do it on their opponent's 20, on their 20. Hell, they can do it on their own 1 yard line. Why not? Because again, as we saw last night, it really can't be stopped. You can't get under it as a defense. You can't try to get over it as a defense, as you saw the Dolphins try to do by trying to leap over. It just doesn't matter. I mean, just the angle of that play and the power and the strength and the athleticism of the people running it there, it's absolutely unstoppable. And it's just up to the league whether they want to see it continue or not. I think most teams would probably vote against it because obviously, whenever you're playing the Eagles, it's automatic. But I just feel like it's just not necessarily great for the game. To me, there's nothing more exciting than a 4th and short play, especially in a crucial game-deciding situation. And again, with the Eagles running that and being allowed to run it when you've got guys pushing. The problem isn't, the idea of a quarterback sneak. Tom Brady did that with great success for most of his career. He's one of the best ever to do it. But when you talk about, a great offensive line like that, obviously you can't stop an offensive line from doing what they need to do. When you talk again about a very powerful athletic quarterback like Jalen Hurts sneaking forward, I mean, no rule can stop that. But then when you start with the push behind him, again, that's where it no longer even becomes compelling or interesting. It's like you're watching the game. It's 4th and 1. You know what's coming. It's like, hey, you know what? Just spare us the bullshit and just give him a first.
Never mind. The 4 pitches that he outside. Just send him to first base. Well, I mean, have you had any inquiries from teams about signing potentially sumo wrestlers to come in that spot?
It's really the funny thing is these offensive linemen, they never really, people just don't understand how talented they are. They really are the most freakish people on the field because, when you see a guy that looks like Tyreek Hill, when you see a guy that looks like, some of the other, Chubb or some of these other guys, Mostert, any of these guys, you could see that they're athletic. The athleticism just shows. You can look at them and see it. When it comes to the offensive linemen, in many cases, some of the guys, and I've represented so many of these guys throughout the years, you just underestimate just how flexible and how athletic and how quick they are. Change of direction, footwork on a man that, in many cases is averaging 6'4", 6'5", 305, 310 pounds. It's really amazing for them to be able to have that kind of flexibility to get that low. And again, that's why Jason Kelsey may well be the better Kelsey in the NFL. And I mean, that's saying a lot because his brother's a Hall of Fame tight end. Yeah, I mean, Travis is one of the best tight ends ever, no doubt. I mean, shit, by the time the career is over, he may be thought of as the best.
Yeah, it'd be tough to
But
beat.
what Jason's done up front at center, there's been some amazing centers who played this game over the last century. You know, some of the names come to mind, the Websters, the Ottos, Dwight Stevenson. This guy's right there with any of them.
Yeah.
And again, he's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, but boy, does this guy just know technically and mechanically how to play that position and win. Watching what he does is just absolutely a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like Jerry Kramer pulling out on a couple of blocks also to the outside to free up runners. So, yeah, your assessment is great because you don't think of these guys. You just think of them as being big, fat slugs. And, there certainly isn't a athleticism element that's involved in that type of play. But, the push play to me is just scrub city.
It's a load of garbage.
I hate it like you do. I think, my God, it doesn't even look right. And, it looks like some task they would have on Survivor when they have the full complement of contestants early in the show. And they're doing some tug of war or something with a rope. But it worked out well for Philadelphia. Yeah.
Let me say one more thing on that, Steve. And again, watching it last night, certainly, my client Mostert playing. I don't have anybody on the Eagles at the moment. So, I wanted to see the Dolphins win the game. And so as it was happening, naturally I found it as annoying as everybody else. And I asked myself, do I just hate it because it's happening to the team that I'd like to see win and there's nothing they could do about it? Would I like it if I were rooting for the Eagles to win the game? And the honest answer is not really. It just
sucks.
You want to see your team win, but the reason why you watch football is to be entertained, and you want to see what kind of a clever play a coach is going to be able to come up with in any given situation, or how well an offensive line or a quarterback or a running back or whoever gets the ball in their hands is going to be able to execute it. But again, when watching that play, it just takes any intrigue out of it. I just think it's a pretty dull, boring, I think it needs to go. I don't think it's really great for the game. I don't think it's great for the viewing audience. And I've had enough of it.
Well, it feels like at some point someone's getting hurt. Like the Patriots did it one time and 5 guys got hurt. Like to me, to have Hurts isn't big. Hurts is like 6 foot, 200 pounds. Like you don't usually root for injuries, but I'm like, this is the stupidest freaking play. How does Hurts not get to the bottom of the pile, trampled by the 10 bodies on top of him? Like to me, you're messing with the disaster doing that play over. They did it 4 times last night. You're telling me he's surrounded by 10 to 12 guys that are almost 300 pounds pushing both sides of him. How is he not going to get hurt at some point? Like to me, and the minute he gets hurt, Sirianni will be like, oh my God, what a bad play. You stupid asshole. You've been running it.
I don't think he's going to get hurt, Lubie. I think it's geometrically,
what the hell does he do?
I think from a geometry standpoint, and that's really what the whole play is. It's a geometrically unstoppable thing. I don't know how Hurts gets hurt because no different than any other, quarterback doing a standard quarterback sneak, which again has been a part of football since its earliest days. I'm all in favor of that. Quarterback sneak is something that's still a relatively high percent play, but it's also stoppable and it's not automatic. Whereas this, on the other hand, is automatic and unstoppable. And I just feel like, again, with the angle that the offensive line is coming in at and the angle that Hurts is at, because he's not, super low, he's not on the ground, but obviously he's not staying high. He's literally just riding the back of the offensive line. He's riding the wave. And then when the guys behind him follow through and clean it up, before you know it, the guy got the first down by about 5 feet. Yeah. And so my problem with it isn't as much the injury risk. I mean, sure, anybody could get hurt on any play. And defensive lines understand that, when you've got an offensive line that's coming in low and coming in to submarine you got to be low yourself, try to get lower. I mean, the number one rule on a football field is low man wins. Yeah. That's how you get leverage on your opponent. That's how you develop and sustain drive on any given play. That's how you win at the point of attack in this league. But again, everybody's coming in there low. Frankly, it looked like the Dolphins were off sides on every single one of those plays because, I mean, really, what else can you do? And so it is what it is, and the league's either going to allow it or disallow it. To me, I think, the pushing and pulling of any offensive player trying to move forward, it's one thing, I think, when you've seen like a running back 20 yards downfield, trying to fight off a couple guys at the goal line, and you might see an offensive lineman come in there and try to, clean it up. That's one thing. But again, when you're straight up taking two guys and pushing a guy right in the back who's already got momentum going his way, like we've been talking about now, it's just, to me, it's just completely boring.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we've seen guys pushing a pile when a running back has sort of been stopped. And it's funny because they will give the running back his forward progress, even though he's getting pushed back 50 yards. But they allow an offense to push the guy and don't consider that, that then the defense should get that consideration. And, when the pushing started, the play should go back to where that contact was initiated with the player's own teammate. But anyway, yeah, it was kind of an interesting aspect. I thought, it was, you couldn't be any more confident in a play, and you say it works with certainty. It was funny because they put up the analytics on this now, which I don't understand how anybody could follow analytics based on this new math that they use, where I think they put up a stat that it works 89% of the time and fails 79% of the time. And I'm thinking that's a really high percentage. I mean, to calculate in totality there, where it adds up to like $1.60 that you're looking at. But, it was aggravating last night, especially if you were, on the side of the Miami Dolphins to watch that play succeed. And the balls it took to do it from the 25 in a 7-point game, I thought, that was crazy because Sirianni, who should get Coach of the Year, shouldn't he, Brett? Because how do you coach a team that has no penalties the entire ballgame? Wouldn't that be something that would go into the criteria for a Coach of the Year, a well-disciplined team? How is it possible, Brett Tessler, that the Eagles incurred no enforced penalties in that contest? They did have one flag, and it was part of an offsetting affair with the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, NFL officiating is a joke at this point.
Good. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, thank you.
No, I mean, the thing is, I mean, maybe there's things I'm not supposed to say, but the truth is, I mean, am I really stating anything that's not just completely obvious? I mean, water's wet, the sky is blue. I mean,
NFL officiating is a joke. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, you saw, I don't remember who the Dolphins receiver was on that play late in the game where he tried to come back to the sideline and got face mask. How do you miss that? Yeah. How do you miss that? I mean, just what a crucial play at a crucial time. Now, obviously the Dolphins were fortunate to get a turnover shortly after that and score on it, but that's beside the point. I'm not interested in playing the result. I'm not interested in, things worked out in the end. It's these referees' job to make the right calls. And, there's a lot going on out there. I'm not saying their job's easy. I'm not saying I could do it better. But what I am saying is with what's at stake out here, in terms of just what's always been at stake for these teams, in terms of all the money spent on players and the commitment to try to win it all and everything else, players need to be able to count on the people officiating their sport to be able to get it right. Almost, no one's perfect. And obviously we have replay for certain instances, but other things like that, you got to get that one right. And now when you factor in the idea that the NFL is so tied into gambling, legalized gambling now, so more people are gambling on the sport than ever. I'll be honest with you, Deef. I mean, I myself, I'm not a gambler. But if I were, I think I'd rather put my money on a cockfight than an NFL game.
You're at El Chapo's ranch there.
That's great.
You think you're going to come up with a winning rooster. You will not leave here without money.
I'd rather, put my money with a guy on the streets with the cup with the bean inside a game or whatever, just because It's just gotten out of hand, and it's inexcusable, and it just kind of makes a lot of people. You hear a lot of fans out there really question the integrity. It's no longer a question of, the guy missed the call. With what's at stake now, and everybody having access to gambling, a lot of fans genuinely question the honesty and the integrity of the sport. And when that happens, it's never a good thing. And, I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm saying that you hear a lot of people saying it. And then when you watch a game like last night in a close spot like that, and you see a call like that end up getting missed, it's unconscionable.
That's Tim Donaghy out there in the field there. And wow, how he didn't throw the flag is remarkable. Excellent, as always, Brent. I hope this doesn't cost you 25 dimes when the league gets a hold of this tape. But, a very honest assessment of what was going on. And it's weird sometimes when you see these blatant missed calls, is that it's always where the guy's standing, staring with a perfect angle. There was no way to miss that. I mean, it was impossible to not see that this guy got grabbed by the face mask. And you can never determine, what a subsequent series of events is going to be if something, if that had stood up. Who knows what would have happened. We don't know that the Dolphins would have picked off a pass in the subsequent drive after the fourth down play failed. So, very, very much concerning as Goodell is sending it in there. And when does he take part in one of the commercials for FanDuel himself?
That's funny.
It's probably part of his new deal, right?
Here's the thing, guys, and we can laugh and joke and everything, but the reality is this is a league of accountability, and nobody is held more accountable than players. Yeah. And when a player makes a mistake or a certain amount of mistakes, sooner or later it's going to cost him his job. Yep. Same thing with coaches. Same thing with front office people. Yep. There is a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on almost everybody in this league to do their job at the very highest level with no exception. Yet the only, I wonder, the referee that missed that call, is anything going to happen to him? Is that guy going to lose his job? Is he going to be back out there next week, blowing calls on some other, other game? Yes. So these are the things that really aggravate me, that it's very well known that when you see a kicker miss, the third extra point, in a couple games in a row, what's coming to that guy and his family. Yeah. And, same thing, when a coach is 0-8 coming into a bye week and, his team's not showing a sign of life, no matter how hard that guy is working, no matter how many hours that guy is spending in the office and watching film and everything else that goes along with these jobs, there's so much pressure. There's so much accountability. And frankly, if that's the case for the players on the field and the coaches, jobs are at stake here, and calls like that jeopardize other people's jobs potentially. And, again, I just wonder, the people making those calls, what's their accountability?
Yeah. It's like Jerry Roth, Chuck Giampa, Dwayne Ford. Exactly. And you're thinking, a guy's career could go up in smoke because you're making these ridiculous, looking like you were bribed type of scores. All right, Brett, we love you, man. Thanks so much for being with us. It was, a little bit of a disappointment, but under the circumstances, you would have to say that no reason to start crying yet if you're a Dolphin fan. Thanks so much for being with us here today on the show.
Life goes on for the Dolphins. If this was, again, the week before the playoffs and you felt like this was the team peaking and this is the best they could do, then no, you'd realize they're not going to be ready to go all the way. But I think, as the season goes on, as guys get healthy, as a defense just continues to become more cohesive as a unit, I think they'll be fine. I think they're still one of the top four or five best teams in the league.
Excellent, my friend. Have a great week. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, guys. See you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Brett Townsend, the agent of the Stars. Speaking of atrocious calls, too, how this wasn't reversed. That potential safety, which was a safety in the Clemson-Miami game. Did you see that? No. Where Klubnik, is tackled 3 yards into the end zone. Clearly on the replays, it shows that the ball was inside the end zone when he was tackled and taken to the ground.
Okay.
And they rule it, dead at like the 1 yard line instead. Which, they always, pussy out on these kind of calls. I hate to use a word like that in this spot, but it's so outrageous when they're afraid to call a safety.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I mean, it was a huge part of this ball game. And they watch a replay, which 100 replays 100 times confirms that the guy was in the end zone. There's no other way to see this. There's no angle. There's nothing. Right? I've judged 1 million photos at the track there. I'm a fairly decent judge of which horse came out. I mean, by the most infinitesimal of margins, Lubie. So we can see these things pretty clearly, even on a television screen, and no call there, and they let the call stand. Unbelievable. So, Miami was getting hosed. I think it's because people are jealous that we're here in Miami, no?
I don't
But
know.
the officials are, I never thought I'd be part of this conspiracy theory, but the officials are lined up against us. They really are.
You're talking to the king. I hate the refs. So
to quote the great Tony Bruno, it's an outrage.
There you go.
All right, let's hope that thing kicks in right away, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time on the Defo Show as we leave you now. That
The time.
It's 9:47.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.